Welcome on into BKL Nightly. I'm Thad Brown, joined by Caleb Carr, Rachel Liebert. It is Thursday, November the 13th. Bills and Bucks is the next game on the schedule. It is now 3 days away. We're going to get you all ready. We got preview, we got picks. We got lots of stuff to talk about today. As always, we're going to start with the injury report. A lot of good news out at One Bills Drive today. A lot of guys who are back to practice, a lot of upgrades. One of the guys who's a concern, Khalil Shakir. You see him right there in the red non-contact jersey. He was limited in practice today. But beyond that, Josh Palmer, full practice. He's missed a few games. Looks like he will be good to go. Christian Benford, who didn't play last week, seems okay. Taron Johnson also didn't play last week. Full practice too. So the Bills, I think, more on the healthy side coming out of this practice today. Let's show you exactly where the injury report stands. First, we'll talk about the guys who did not practice or who had some sort of issue. Again, Dalton Kincaid, we know all about. Looks very, very likely he will not play this weekend and may even miss more games beyond that. Fedarian Mathis, the only other player who did not practice at all on Thursday. Shakir, we told you about. Cam Lewis, the only other player who was limited today. Beyond that, like I said, a number of guys were upgraded. These are all the players who were full practice today after being limited on Wednesday. A lot of big names on there, a lot of starters. Benford, we told you about. Terrell Bernard, apparently getting healthier on that ankle. He did not look good at all in the Miami game. Joey Bosa with the wrist injury. Taron Johnson, we showed you. And then at the bottom, the two linebackers, guys who really stand out to me, Dorian Williams, Shaq Thompson, two players who could be very, very helpful. Certainly Thompson, I think, at the top of the list. Guys, like we said, the Bills, injury-wise, getting better. All those players who were available, and we're going to talk about TJ Sanders in a minute, so he doesn't count for this question. But of all the names on the lengthy list, Rachel, you can go first. What kind of stands out to you, whether it be good or bad?
Christian Benford, for sure. I mean, he wasn't active last week, and I think getting him back is probably a huge help to this defense. And then also Joey Bosa just added to the defense. He did obviously play last week, but just him being limited yesterday and being upgraded to full, I think that's a good sign for the defense that, you know, those are two of the leaders in both those position groups. So that's for me.
I agree with Christian Benford. He is, like, to me, the main one because we saw, especially with Maxwell Harrison, we saw a good game from him against the Chiefs. And then he had some good moments, but I don't think this Bills team is ready to rely on him fully. And to get Christian Benford back to kind of be your main guy and then let Maxwell continue to grow, I think is going to be big for him.
Like I talked about when the graphic was on, Shaq Thompson being an option if he's full practice, I think is big. To be honest, the one that stands out to me the most is on the negative side. Khalil Shakir being limited again is a big concern. You've already missing Dalton Kincaid. If the Bills don't have Shakir in this game, in a game where it feels like, you know, you're not going to hold Tampa to 12, you're going to have to score some points to win this game. And if the Bills are going to miss Kincaid and Shakir for this contest, it seems very, very difficult against the Tampa defense that's very good against the run to keep up points-wise. We'll talk a little more about all this as we go along. One of the guys, like we said, that was back to practice is TJ Sanders. He's still officially on injured reserve, but he's been a full practice Wednesday and Thursday. It seems, I don't want to say likely, but certainly very, very possible that he will be active to play on Sunday this week against the Bucks. He said yesterday he was surprised how good he felt. He talked a little more about what he thinks he might be able to do, and also the impact of all the injuries on this Bills defensive line so far this year.
I just saw a kid who was getting better week to week. I felt like I was just it was kind of starting to slow down just a little bit for me, you know, just where as much as I needed to, where I can finally, you know, start playing a little faster and, you know, making more plays.
It's annoying. I mean, it's, you know, you get it. Injuries are always 100% in this game, and I mean, you never want to see someone get hurt, but just at the rate it happened and how it happened, you know, week by week, someone going down and someone new coming in, you know, it's kind of frustrating because we were building a real good, you know, chemistry amongst each other, and just to have that kind of blow kind of sucks.
I'm ready to come in and do my job like I've been trying to do all year. We've been dealing with injury bugs all season, and, you know, this is just another step throughout the year.
I love how Daquan Jones said it's annoying. It's got to be. It's got to be when every single week. And he's been one of the guys who was hurt too. But the Bills do have an opportunity to bring a piece back, which they did with last week with Daquan Jones. This week it might be TJ Sanders. Look, this is a second-round pick. This is a guy who's supposed to be helpful. He really wasn't that impactful when he played early in the year. But Caleb, how much of an impact do we think Sanders could have, especially on a defensive line that is really dying for any warm body right now?
Yeah, at this point in the season, with like you mentioned, with where the D-line is at, I think he could have a much bigger impact than I think we thought he could, week 2, 3, 4, in that range when the season was just starting. Obviously, he's still a rookie, and we haven't seen much of him, so it's tough for me to put a ceiling on what that impact is going to be, or even a floor on what that impact could be, honestly. But I think we've been talking about it so much with so many of these guys on the D-line, just to have a body back there that can play an NFL snap. I think you and me talked about it earlier this week, that just to have somebody who is a capable football player on this D-line is huge right now.
It's a unique situation here for this particular game because the Bucs offensive line is actually pretty strong on the outside with Tristan Wirfs and actually getting Luke Gedeke, a right tackle. He missed a bunch of games, came back last week, played in the loss to New England. That's where they are strongest. On the inside, they are a little more gettable. Dan Feeney, who was a guy who was just a body in camp for the Bills, he's a starter for Tampa Bay at right guard. So this is an opportunity, Rachel, for a guy like TJ Sanders, Deion Walker, too, a number of guys in the middle, who maybe the Bills don't count on to be your productive foundation of the defensive line to make some noise.
Yeah, I think just having a new body in there, because this has been a revolving door of injuries, especially for the D-line. And to think, too, he's a rookie. He's someone who hasn't seen a lot of NFL snaps. And you want to think he's probably hungry to just get in there and do something for this team. So I think it is, I think he can have an impact in just the sense of bringing in a new guy, bringing in, like you said, on the inside, if that's the weak point of Tampa Bay's offense. Just he can have that impact and not have so much pressure to be like the game-changing guy in this role. So I think when he comes back this weekend or whenever that is, I do think that he can, bring a new energy maybe to the D-line that's been kind of struggling.
I think the energy is a good point. I do wonder about the pressure. I think if you're playing on this defensive line right now, it's hard not to have pressure because with all the bodies that are out, all the need that's there, you almost feel like anybody who's still left standing feels like you got to play at 1.5 speed to make up for what's out of there. And especially, I don't think TJ Sanders strikes me as a guy that worries too much about the fact he was a second-round pick. But again, of all the guys not named Joey Bosa who are new to this defense, who are still upright, to me it feels like Sanders is the guy who should and probably would have the most pressure on them.
I agree. I agree with you that I don't think he cares that he's a second-round pick, but I think there are probably some people in the building who are like, okay, we spent a second-round pick on this guy. He needs to show us more than what he has so far. And obviously, he's been injured. There's been limited opportunities to show what he can show, but I think whatever he has, he needs to show that within these next few games.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be this week. It can be, next few weeks. It's got to be at some point relatively soon. Now, this game, of course, is going to be a battle of 2018 first-round draft picks. Baker Mayfield went first overall. Josh Allen went 7th. Cleveland might regret that choice. I think Cleveland has many things to regret at this point. Funny thing is, Josh and Baker actually get along pretty well off the field, and both guys didn't mind trolling each other a little bit Wednesday when they got to meet the media for their regular press conference ahead of this particular game.
I have to walkie-talkie to him because he's so damn tall, so I can't really have a face-to-face conversation with him. But, in Buffalo, it's cold, it's rainy. Even though he's 6'10", his hands are small, so he better wear his gloves. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
That's crazy.
What's the relationship like with Baker?
Baker wears 2 gloves golfing, so he's that type of guy. I love the guy. He's awesome. To see kind of how his career has progressed and the adversity he's fought through, and playing some really, really dang good football right now. I'm a big fan of his. Anytime I get to watch games, I'm watching what he does because he's very fun to watch. Spent some time at the Senior Bowl with each other, and I've gotten to be around him a few other times. We went golfing this last off season, and he's just, me and him I think are fairly similar in our love for movie quotes. Which that's what we really bond over. But yeah, he's a fun guy to be around.
Let's be fair. If we're going to have a golf afternoon or an evening at the bar with 2 NFL quarterbacks, Josh Allen and Baker Mayfield on the short list of that. That sounds like a great time. And these two guys both came into this league kind of with different expectations. Josh Allen was, the polarizing draft pick. There were many people, including myself, who said, don't touch that guy with a 10-foot pole. Baker Mayfield was number 1 in a draft where, he's one of the good ones, but I don't know if he's number 1 overall. And both guys have achieved some level of success. in Josh's case, real elite success, MVP success. But Rachel, of the two, which guy are you more impressed with the path they took? Because neither one had it easy to get where they're at right now.
I think Baker Mayfield, I mean, you put him in the situation of Cleveland, and we know what Cleveland does to quarterbacks or doesn't do to quarterbacks.
It doesn't do for quarterbacks.
For quarterbacks, exactly. And then it seems like he's found his fit with this Tampa Bay team. I mean, and then looking back too with Baker Mayfield, there's been a lot of I don't want to say controversy, but just he hasn't been a favorite. I mean, even in college, he wasn't a favorite. People did not want to draft this cocky quarterback, and the Browns did, and then went the way it did. And now I feel like he's found his fit. So even though Josh Allen has MVP success and he's Josh Allen, I still think I kind of lean on the side of Baker Mayfield has kind of impressed me more to kind of go through, just maybe because I'm familiar with the Cleveland and being a part of that fandom. I think more impressed with his way to get out of it and make a name for himself now.
We don't want to call Rachel out too often, but she's an Ohio girl, so
I am.
You're well aware
so
of.
I'm familiar.
Do you own one of those Cleveland jerseys with all 19 or 20 names?
No, but my brother has several Cleveland jerseys, and every time he gets a jersey, that person gets hurt, that person gets traded. So he has the Cleveland jersey curse. I don't know if he ever had a Baker Mayfield jersey though, but if he did, he might have cursed him.
I would imagine it's not hard to find a jersey of a Cleveland player that ends up
it's not
failing in some way.
It's most of them.
Most of them, exactly. Caleb?
I don't know if I can pick when you just look at their entire career. I think Josh Allen has a more impressive beginning of his career because there was a lot of the turnovers and just the wild play style that kind of made a lot of people not like him, and he was able to come out of that and be like, no, I can be a very good NFL quarterback. Obviously last year considered the best NFL quarterback. But Baker Mayfield, his second half of his career, he was pretty much just washed away. He was just told, no, we're done with you. We don't want to hang out. We don't want to play with you anymore. And then tough time in Carolina, goes to LA, the Rams.
For a hot second.
Really only has one good game there, but shows that he is still capable. And then he's just done amazing with the Bucs. Obviously doesn't have an MVP with them, but he's done amazing in his time at the Bucs. So honestly, I'm impressed with Baker's second half and Allen's first half. Even though Allen has won an MVP in the second half, I don't think it's crazy to say that because of the work he did in the first half, that I don't think anyone, I think if you looked at his first half and then you said, yeah, he's going to win an MVP, I don't think anyone would be too surprised by that.
I think it's a great way to put it, to take the careers and split them up and kind of say one guy's been more impressive with the second one. I still will lean to the Josh Allen side because of how much was against him at the draft. How many people thought he had no chance? And to be honest, it wasn't analysis or criticism that was unfounded. There were good reasons why people had doubts about Josh Allen. He had to correct his mechanics. He had to find a way to kind of harness the chaos Josh stuff that we saw early in his career and become that MVP quarterback. Baker's a real close second. Don't get me wrong. I think his story is more fun too in terms of all the weird stuff that's happened. The other thing I was thinking about as we were having this conversation, you think about that whole draft. Sam Darnold's good now. Lamar Jackson's a multi-MVP winner. That draft ended up as good as everybody thought it would be quarterback-wise, but the two guys that everybody kind of hated, Lamar and Josh, were the elite ones, and the two guys that I think people loved the most, Baker and Sam Darnold, it took 4 chances before it happened. So just a wild story for both guys to kind of go through.
Don't forget about Josh Rosen.
Who?
Josh Rosen.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. All right, let's move along to the BKL Roundtable, BKL Nightly Roundtable. So Bills and Bucks this week, and the Bills this year have not been very good when it's come to defending number one receivers. Drake London has carried about 7 fantasy teams to wins. I think that 7,000 maybe. That Monday night game last week, it was Jalen Waddle. There have been a number of guys who've had big games against the Bills. This week, one would think it would be Emeka Egbuka, the star receiver rookie for the Bucs. So the Bills guys this week, they have some brand new pieces, at least a brand new secondary, we think. It'll likely be Christian Benford. Looks that way. Taron Johnson will be healthy. You got Max Hairston, now at least functional in the defense. Cole Bishop playing as well as he has all year. Caleb, is this secondary ready to finally handle and at least control an elite receiver?
I don't know if I would say ready to handle, because to me, handle means they're going to shut him down and they're going to have no problems with him. But this is definitely a different secondary than we saw. Even just looking last week against Jalen Waddle, Christian Benford wasn't there, or you look earlier in the year against Stephon Diggs and Drake London, like you said, this is definitely a different secondary. So I think they have a much better chance now to slow him down. Outside of Egbuka, I don't think there's too many scary weapons like receiver. They have a couple that are decent, but I don't think there's anybody too crazy outside of him. So I think they can kind of, although you should never as a secondary focus all your attention on one guy, they can kind of keep an extra eye on him maybe a little bit. And I think they should be able to slow him down. Now, Handle, I don't think they're going to shut him down. He's still going to have a good day, in my opinion. Like, if you're a fantasy manager, you should still probably start him. But he's not going to, I don't think he is like 2 touchdowns, 200 yards. I think they are better equipped now than they were then.
Ibuka is definitely not a guy you bench in a fantasy team.
Never.
I mean, it doesn't matter who
Probably
you're playing.
never.
Yeah, exactly. And it's crazy to say for a rookie receiver. To your point about other weapons, Bucky Irving and Chris Godwin were limited in practice on Wednesday. I haven't seen the Thursday report yet, but it seemed like both guys were trending more towards playing. I don't want to say they're going to play.
Mm-hmm.
Both have been out quite a while. That certainly changes the equation when we talk about what the Bills are going to do against an elite guy if those two are available. But it hasn't really mattered, who the elite receiver was, what's around them. Most of them have been successful against the Bills. Rachel, where are you landing on the new 2.0 Bills secondary for this year?
I would like to think that this should be the group that should handle or as closely handle a receiver like Ibuka. But I mean, like you said, the way he's been playing, I don't think they're going to completely shut him down. But if this group doesn't do that, then I'm concerned because this is the group of guys that you would think are the elite guys on the field to be able to do that. So if you have Benford and you have him healthy and Harrison's healthy and, that is the group that you want out there if you think this team is capable of finishing the season strong and making this playoff run that everybody wants them to make. If they don't do that, then for me, that's a big concern. But I don't know if they're ready. I think they're ready to maybe contain him, but I don't know if they're ready to completely shut him down.
I land in a similar spot. I just want to find out. I want to see because to your point, this is kind of the group, right? It's not going to get better than this. There's no one new coming through that door that's going to change the makeup of the Bills secondary. So if you can't make it work with Taron Johnson and Max Hairston and Cole Bishop playing at this level, then it's not going to work. And then we have other problems to worry about because we've already talked about what the run D is in this team, and that ain't very good. I'm certainly encouraged to see what can happen. Now, last week, Jalen Waddle just ran circles around Max Hairston, even beyond the things everybody saw on TV, the stuff beyond it. And Carl Jones and I talked about it on BKL Nightly on Tuesday with Let's Talk Ball. So there's a lot that needs to get better about Hairston before he becomes a guy that you feel good about in this spot. But with Benford back, Hairston's not the number one. So you have an opportunity to allow Hairston to play somebody else. Again, if it's Chris Godwin, that kind of changes the math on this. But A, I'm encouraged, and B, I can't wait to find out. All right, point number 2. Also going to talk about receivers, but this time on the Bills side. Dalton Kincaid will not play in this game, almost certainly. Khalil Shakir is iffy, but we're going to assume he's in for now. Of the other receivers, and Rachel, I'll start with you, which pass catcher, and not just receivers, anybody, which pass catcher absolutely needs to have a game this week to make up for the fact that Dalton Kincaid won't be available?
I mean, if it's not Dalton Kincaid, I think it's the next man up. I think it's Dawson Knox. When you have Caleb smiling, what did I steal your answer?
Yeah, you did. It's okay. Keep going.
When you don't have a group of receivers that have, I don't really have much confidence in that. And then especially if Shakir doesn't play, obviously we don't know yet, but I feel like there has to be a tight end that steps up. Maybe it's Jackson Haas. That would be fun to see. But I think Dawson Knox is the next guy up. I mean, he's been okay this season. He hasn't done great. I mean, Kincaid has been the go-to guy, but I think he is the next man up, quite literally and figuratively. So I think he needs to be, make an impact this game.
Yeah, all the point, I think Rachel hit on every single point that I was thinking of. If you're not going to have Kincaid there, I think you just need to bring in the next tight end, and the next tight end needs to make plays because we've seen what happens when this team tries to rely on Keon Coleman, tries to rely on Joshua Palmer, even Khalil Shakir, if he plays to an extent, what happens when they rely on him. Outside of Josh Allen, James Cook, and at times Dalton Kincaid, there's been nobody on this team that you can rely to. So we know what happens when those guys need to step up. They just really don't, unless it's the fourth quarter of the Baltimore Ravens game. So I think might as well give another guy a chance to step up. Let's see what Dawson Knox can do. I mean, from what we've seen in limited time this year and years past, he's a very good tight end. He's reliable. So might as well just put him out there and a similar game plan as what you would with Kincaid and see what he can do.
It's funny that you guys are just avoiding receivers like the plague for this question. Like, there's just no way that it can happen.
I don't want to go Keon Coleman. I just don't want to.
I get it. And I really thought about Dawson Knox. For the record, he was 3 for 37 last week against the Dolphins. That's the only time all year he's had more than 2 catches in a game. Obviously, his role this year has been much less pass catching than in past years. But at least against Miami, he proved that he can have some impact on the game. He's got a touchdown this year too. I don't think Knox has the athleticism to make up for what you're losing in Dalton Kincaid. And some of that is born of the fact that watching the Bills-Miami game on film, after Kincaid leaves the game, it is stark how less athletic the other guys are. And that's not to say that Jackson Hawes and Dawson Knox are not athletic, but it just reminds you that what you're getting out of Kincaid in terms of speed and his ability to move around the field. It's just not the same for a lot of other tight ends. So for me, I did go with Keon Coleman. And I know why you didn't want to. I wasn't super excited about this answer. I think it's a little less Keon too, because the way I wrote it down here is I got Keon and then Gabe Davis in parentheses, question mark, if he plays. It's got to be someone on the outside, but I think Keon's the one most likely to do it. Khalil Shakir is going to kind of get his. He's going to, do his normal 7 for 60, a couple first downs. He's going to do his thing. Josh Palmer is too near off this injury for me to really throw all my chips on that number. So after that, all I'm left with is Keon, if I don't buy into Dawson Knox. And I just don't buy into him enough. Keon still has it in him. You talk about the fourth quarter of the Baltimore game being the only time. Well, it did happen. We did see it. It did exist. And he had a touchdown last week. You don't need Keon to go 8 for 150 either. I think if you get 6 for 70 in a red zone conversion, that might be qualifying for this question. That might be good enough to do what the Bills need him to do. I think the real answer to this is it better be somebody, because if it's not anybody, then I think we're going to have a hard time talking about a Bills win when we get to Monday. Speaking of Bills win, so I'm going to speak for everybody's social media feed. I know it's been true on mine. Bills Mafia has been excessively salty this week. Everything is terrible. You could post on there that Josh Allen helped the grandmothers across the street, and they'd be like, well, he only helped her across a 2-lane highway.
He doesn't
that doesn't
have
really
passion
count.
for the game.
Exactly. It would be something like that. So the final question here in the round table is winning this game on Sunday going to be enough for Bills fans? And I'll start with Caleb, who is the one who grew up as a Bills fan.
No, it's not enough. It's not nearly enough, but it's step one. To me right now, what I'm most concerned about with this team is because we know that they can be good. Like, we saw it against the Chiefs.
2 weeks ago.
We saw it 2 weeks ago against the Kansas City Chiefs, which are still, even after losing to the Bills and having a bye week last week, still considered one of the best teams in the NFL right now.
Even though they're not in the playoffs. Right,
even though they're not in the playoffs,
right,
they're still considered one of the best teams. That just shows that shows how good they are, or how good they can be. So we saw what they can be, and then we saw the exact opposite of that last week against Miami. So to me, the thing I need to see is just consistency. I need to see the team that can be a playoff caliber team consistently to win 3 games if needed in the playoffs to go to a Super Bowl and to win a Super Bowl. So I think they need to win today. Not today. They need to win on Sunday, because that's step one. If they don't win, then all confidence, everything's out the window at that point. But if they can win, and then they can go and they can beat the Texans and they can beat the Steelers, and they don't need to win all of these games because you've got Texans, you've got Steelers, you've got, at this point, we're now thinking Joe Burrow is going to be back for that Bengals
potentially,
game.
Yeah.
And then you have the Patriots, Eagles. If they can at least start to win most of these games, and step one would be against the Bucs, then I would have a little more confidence. I would be a little bit more excited about come playoff time.
Rachel?
I agree. I don't think this is going to solve all the problems. I do think it is more of a step one, but I do think the Bucs have earned enough respect around the league that they are a good football team. And if the Bills beat them, I think that is the Bills are also a good football team. It's not like they're playing the Jets this week. It's not like they're playing Cleveland this week and, they get a win and, well, it was just a win over a not good football team. I think that the Bucs have enough, they've earned enough of the right to, they are a good football team. They're 6-3. They come off that loss, but to a team the Bills also lost to. So I think if the Bills win this week, it's not enough to solve this, the sky is falling in Buffalo and that whole narrative, but I do think it is a step in the right direction.
I'm with you guys, and I think pointing out the consistency is a great way to look at it, that you can't do it with one game. I will say this, though. It better be enough, because this is, to your point, Rachel, a good team. And assuming it's not something weird, deflected touchdowns, 8 turnovers, just guys getting hurt, assuming it's a legit win, you're not going to get better than this except for Philly at the end of the year. And then who knows what kind of Philly team shows up then. If this is not going to satisfy Bills fans, then they're not going to be satisfied, not if they win 3 or 4 in a row, but until you win that big game in January. And look, for those people, we're not making them happy. For the people who I think are in a reasonable spot, I think winning this game, as long as it's not weird, should be enough. Fair?
I think it's fair. But I do, as someone who's been a Bills fan for a while, I get the narrative of I'm not going to be happy until they're raising the Lombardi.
There's a number of Bills fans who, again, you will just not satisfy. All right, time for our game predictions. Rachel, you have the best record, so you will get to go first.
I'm hoping that stays true this week. The Bills had a horrible loss last week, and I don't think they are going to do that again. I think they're going to learn from their mistakes, so I'm taking Bills 24-20. Don't think it's going to be super high scoring. Both teams come off a loss, but I do think the Bills will regroup. It will be interesting to see who's healthy and who's active, which might change my answer come game day. But as of now, I do think the Bills will respond at Highmark, and I'm going to take them 24-20.
Caleb?
They're at home. They've got some guys coming back. I mean, if they lose this game, I think everything, at least maybe not internally, but externally, everything's over. So I feel like they have to go win this game. I'm going to keep it very, very close, though, 24-23. I mean, I think this is going to be one where if they win, it's going to be like a last-minute type of win. But I am going to take the Bills, even if it bites me later.
I mean, you're already 4-5.
At this point, I need to just take some risks. Yeah.
I am with you guys on the home factor and a little bit of the desperation factor. Part of me looks at Tampa's situation and thinks they're 6-3 with 5-5. Carolina is the biggest threat in their division. They don't have to win this game. The Bills, on the other hand, are scratching and clawing just to hang with New England. And the wild card race is not fait accompli at all. So, yeah, they're more desperate. And those things will matter. And the bounce back factor will matter. To me, I think the Bills have to win in the run game in this one. You got to be able to run the ball somehow against a good Bucs defense, because if you can't, we've seen what happened to this offense. It ain't good. On the flip side, you got to be able to not let Tampa run it. Tampa doesn't want to run it. The Bills like to let everybody run it. If you have Tampa being effective in the ground game on top of what I think they're going to do no matter what, passing the ball, this is going to be a problem for the Bills team. I think the Bills have a couple disadvantages. Number one, we talked a little bit about Tampa was good on the outside against the Chiefs, a good passing game. The Bills did a good job getting pressure on the edges. Well, Tampa's tackles are good. Joey Bosa and Greg Rousseau are going to have a much tougher game this week. Tampa also is very good protecting the ball. They don't commit penalties. They're not going to help the Bills out. For all those reasons, I'm taking the Bucs, 30-24. I think this game's going to be higher scoring, too. A lot of people, I know a lot of the Bills Kickoff Live guys have the 24-20 level somewhere in there. I think Tampa's going to score, and I think the Bills can score to beat them, but I think they're going to have to. This would not stun me if the Bills win this game. I think this is a really, really tough pick. And because Buffalo's at home and has the desperation factor, I don't like going against him, but too many matchups favor Tampa. Taking away the run game with Tampa's defense, being able to throw the ball no matter what, especially if they get Chris Godwin and Bucky Irving back, I find it hard to X and O-wise my way into a convincing Bills argument. We will see, though. We will see. And the Bills have obviously beaten the Chiefs, so it's not like they are incapable of winning this game. That is it for us today. We will see you again Sunday after the game, talking about it, me and Caleb Carr. For Rachel and Caleb, I'm Thad. Thanks very much for watching. We'll talk to you again over the weekend.
Get the Rochester First streaming app today for everything you love from News 8 On Demand, plus exclusive shows you won't see anywhere else. Search ROC and download for free on Roku, Amazon Fire, and Apple TV.